Welcome to Life Recovery Today with Stephen Arterburn. In the next half hour, you'll obtain insights and tools to transform your life using the biblical principles found in the 12-step program. We believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience because we all have struggles in life. Struggles with addictions, food, depression, anxiety, and relationships, to name a few. You'll be encouraged to see how others have found a new way of life with hope for the future through life recovery. Your host is Steve Arterburn, founder of New Life Ministries and Women of Faith, author of over 100 books, and teaching pastor at Northview Church, one of the fastest growing churches in America. Steve is the co-editor of the Life Recovery Bible, the #1 selling recovery Bible. With over 3 million copies sold, this is the Bible given to inmates by Prison Fellowship and the Pew Bible for the Salvation Army. Now here's Steve.
Hi there, Steve Arterburn here. Welcome to Life Recovery Today with Stephen Arterburn. I've got a great guest we're going to talk to today, Michael Carey. Michael Carey has a sexual purity ministry. We're going to talk about that, and he's got this great organization. We'll tell you all about the organization he runs, but he's helping a lot of people get really good and well, weller than well, I would say. But today, just to start off here, I want to talk to you a little bit about, there's a great verse, Luke 6:31. It says this, that we ought to do to other people what we'd like people to do to us. So wouldn't you love to get a phone call from somebody that says, hey, been thinking about you and been thinking about our relationship or what happened yesterday or a decade ago, and I was just thinking I didn't handle that well, or what I did was hurtful. Wouldn't that be great if somebody called you up and started that way and then said, I'm calling to ask you if you'd forgive me, because I'm really sorry. Well, I think most of us would appreciate that kind of phone call, and it would certainly indicate something's going on with that person who made that call. Well, you know, I'm never going to make that call unless I write down, make a list of the people that I probably ought to make it right with. I did this, you know. I didn't think I was going to do it. I went to this conference, this seminar, and they told me that part of it was you'd make this list, and then you'd become willing to make amends. And then you'd actually do that. Well, we'll talk about the amends later. But I just thought, you know, I'll go to this conference, but I'm not going to do that. But when it came time to do it, I realized that I was a believer. I had made things right with God, but God wanted me to make things right with other people. I really had a hard time looking people in the eye because I didn't know if they were thinking of something or they knew something I hadn't made right. And I got to tell you, after I made that list and after I did all the things that I could do, wrote letters, made phone calls, saw people face to face, and even paid back money, things like that. We'll talk about that in step 9. But, you know, after I did that, I really understood the value of making it right with other people. I just didn't carry the shame anymore. And we talked many times about how God wants us to not worship Him if we've got somebody that's got something against us. Jesus telling the story about the guy who's offering a sacrifice, worshiping God. He says, no, don't do that. Go, if somebody's got something against you, make it right, then you come back here. I mean, you got to be pretty committed to be sacrificing and worshiping. But He's saying, get out there, make it right. So the first step of that is our 8th step. We made a list of all the persons that we had harmed. That's the first part. Then we became willing to make amends to them all. So what do? We make a list. Now, we want it to be a good list. I have a friend that went to the grocery store, sampled a grape, felt guilty, and felt like she needed to make amends. No. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about real things. And so let's just, deal with the tough stuff and then grapes, things like that, will take place. But how about we start that, we make that list of the people that we've hurt, and we ask the Holy Spirit to give us some insight, some wisdom, some discernment of who ought to be on that list. And then once we make our list, we ask God to help us with our willingness, because you might be like me, pretty resistant in the beginning, but I got to tell you, it's an amazing thing. So we become willing to make amends to people who have been impacted by our behavior. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. Michael Carey, you're going to like this guy. He is amazing, and his wife, my wife, have a connection in recovery. We'll tell you all about that. But you're listening to Life Recovery today. Please, if you need some help, you call us 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We'll be back.
Are you going through your struggles alone? Do you want someone to talk to help you through your pain? Do you feel like a failure when you relapse again, telling yourself, next time will be different? Don't walk this path alone anymore. Join a life recovery group today and be a person that your friends and family can be proud of. God created us to be in community, and we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country, and if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. Life Recovery brings recovery to you, right where you are. You'll take a journey with others to find healing and freedom. Whether you're looking to join a group or start one, New Life Ministries is here for you. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE or visit liferecoverytoday.net.
Welcome back to Life Recovery Today, and joining me, Michael Carey. I've known Michael for years, and he is the executive director of this great ministry called Living Truth. And he and I go back even before he and I ever knew each other, because his wife, Kristen, and my wife, Misty, they're in the same recovery group. And my wife tells the story of how she believes it was a God-arranged appointment, that she was in charge of the newcomers group that day, and here came Kristen walking in the door, never been to one of these meetings before, and that's how they met. Well, Misty became her sponsor, and now Misty would tell you that your wife has far excelled her in recovery, maturity, all this stuff. And that's really the way it ought to be. But Michael, thanks for joining me. Really admire what you're doing, and we want to talk about that. Thanks. But to start with, let's just talk about why it is that you're involved with so many guys out of our church, Northview Church, where you can find out about this, northviewchurch.us. But I mean, you work, you could say this, literally with hundreds of guys in sexual integrity groups. Yeah. Not just with the church, but now you're connected with other churches. So how did that come about?
That is a great question. I get asked that pretty often, and it evolved out of my own brokenness. So my cousin introduced me to porn when I was 11, and that excelled, had sex with a girl that I wasn't even dating when I was about 16. And it just got worse and worse and worse. Brought that into my adult life and the behavior, had sex with a prostitute, brought it into my marriage, and that was just a complete mess, you know. That marriage ended in divorce, and when I finally hit a rock bottom, I started getting into 12-step recovery groups, and was receiving, and I got a sponsor, and then I started sponsoring other men, and that really was rewarding. Yeah. To me. So God just had me on that trajectory of moving from a lay ministry of sponsoring guys, launching into professional vocational ministry in this sector.
So a lot of people might be watching, and they still haven't made the flip over from bad little boy or bad little girl looking at dirty pictures or something to a life of sexual integrity. So what what made the difference for you? What was it that everything changed? Was it or you say rock bottom? What was that?
Yeah. Well, I went to this weekend men's retreat, if you will.
Yeah.
And I heard a pastor. He was an ex-pastor, actually. He was talking about his own journey and struggles with pornography and how that cost him his job as a pastor. He had to step down, very public figure, and it was devastating in his life. But I had never really heard anyone talking publicly like that about their own personal journey, because I swore that I would take all this stuff to my grave, you know, which now I know just fuels the problem even more if you have that kind of attitude. So it was that weekend when I had a chance to talk to a man who was public about his journey, and he was open and vulnerable. And so for the first time, I started talking to someone and unloading some of the behavior that I had been up to, that I said that I would take to my grave, and the shame started decreasing then. So that was a turning point for me.
You know, I think most of us are aware, who have been in recovery, that you decide to keep it a secret. And it's kind of the same thing as if I told you, hey, don't think about white bears in Alaska. Don't think about the white ice that they live on. Don't think about that. And you try not to think about that, you're going to think about it. So when it's our goal to keep our private life secret, and it's got sin all over it, it crops up. I mean, it makes it even more present in our thinking. And so once we open up, it really does just that takes so much of the power out of it. So you decided that you could be open. So what did you do next? Who did you talk to? Where did you turn?
Well, that pastor was one of the guys that was instrumental in sponsoring me into the 12 steps. I worked through the 12 steps in the first year, and that was very, very healing. That really set me on this healing journey. Yeah, I would say that because he was farther down the road than me, you know, he was able to teach me and mentor me even past the 12 steps, and so that influence in my life just really, you know, really made it for me.
So you really believed in this guy. His example made all the difference in the world. Now you're that example, and he was a pastor introducing you to the 12 steps. Now, some people would say, well, wait a second, I thought the 12 steps were some secular thing. Why is this pastor introducing you to that? What would you say to that?
Yeah, I would say that that's just not true at all. You know, people identify the 12 steps with Alcoholics Anonymous, and you know, if you really studied that organization, these men were inspired by God to put these steps together, and they're very biblical. You know, when you look through them, they're all about surrender and making amends, and you know, the whole concept. You could find scriptures that back all of it up.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of people don't know, but Bill W. was struggling, and this guy, Ebby, who became his sponsor, who he knew to have a tremendously horrific drinking problem, showed up at Bill W.'s door one day and said, Bill, I've found religion. He didn't say, Bill, I've entered into a recovery process. But really back then, Dr. Bob, who was Bill W.'s little buddy, he would, you know, when somebody say, I want to get better, he'd take them into the upper room, get them on their knees, and lead them to Christ. So I think what you experienced is what many of us experience, that it is all about Christ. It's all about not just the higher power, but the higher power, God. And some people don't start there, but that's what we want, and that's what happens in life recovery groups. Now, we're going to take a break, come back. I want you to hear about this ministry. Because Michael, he is instrumental through life recovery groups. We have, I don't know how many life recovery groups at Northview Church, but he's instrumental in bringing guys in and bringing them along. And he's just made such an impact. I hope it'll inspire some of you. Maybe you'll start a life recovery group in your church. But in the meantime, If you want any information on life recovery or any help for yourself, just call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We'll take a break. We'll come right back.
It's hard to find a trusted friend when you're in crisis. Someone who's been there and understands, but who also has the training and skill to give you practical help. Family, friends, and churches want to help, but often they're not equipped to care for those dealing with problems like addiction and pornography, infidelity, anger, depression. New Life Ministries is here to provide help and hope in life's hardest places. We're not focused on making people feel better. We're focused on helping people do the work that will help them be better. At New Life, we have resources available to help you, like books, DVDs, CDs, workshops, and our network of licensed counselors. If you need help, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and begin your new life today.
Welcome back to Life Recovery Today. Steve Arterburn here with Michael Carey. And I don't know of anybody that's doing more to influence more guys in a sexual purity or sexual integrity way involved in a church. I mean, you really are. You've got all these guys. I think you've probably got more guys showing up at a group for sexual integrity than a lot of churches would have in any kind of recovery group. And, you know, my wife, same thing with her. She facilitates a group for women who have sexual integrity problems. Just to have anybody show up for that, I think is pretty amazing. But you got your act together. You started recovery, 12-step. Mm-hmm. What inspired you to say, I think I might want to start a group at the church?
Well, Steve, you were part of that.
I didn't know that, but maybe I can.
Yeah, you were involved in that as a pastor in the church, of course. And so, you know, in addition to my sponsor, one of the biggest things that also helped me out was the brotherhood. You know, a group of men that were deep, you know, diving deep into their own healing journey and the vulnerability. Yeah. And so I felt inspired by God to really create something new that that involved this brotherhood where men can really get involved in each other's lives and be vulnerable and talk about things that really mattered, because I just couldn't find those kind of relationships outside of recovery and outside of the church and, you know, in everyday life. It just didn't exist.
You know, I think unless somebody is like you, is willing to step up, and like the pastor that you heard, unless a guy is willing to say, okay, here's where I'm broken, here's my problem, I don't think it's going to happen. Guys don't want to open up. They're protective like everybody else often in a church. But it really just takes one person to start to be open, and then other guys are going, oh, okay, if you can do it, exactly. I'm going to be willing. Mm-hmm. So what did you decide? How did you get started in doing recovery groups?
Well, it was when you did a sermon series on Healing is a Choice from your book, and that was kind of the springboard where we got together with the pastors at Northview Church, and we started a brand new group. And we started with 27 guys, and we grew to about 15 the first year, you know, something like that. And then it just started taking off. And we just saw God was doing something special here. Yeah. We went to 40 and then 50, 60, 70, 80, and then it started duplicating into other churches and so on. And it exceeded any kind of vision that I had for the group when we started it.
So when did you start? What year was that?
That would be 4.5 years ago.
4.5 years ago?
2016.
Okay.
February.
And so just to guess, how many guys do you think have come through or been impacted by you deciding, I'm going to just do a group?
You know, I wish I kept better track of those numbers, but if I were to kind of guess, I would say the amount of men that have come through and that have benefited from this program would be upwards of the neighborhood of 350, 400 men at least. Yeah.
Just to think, you know, that is just, the work began at one church and one person being open and then somebody else being inspired, and then they want to facilitate, or they invite somebody else. And it's just a wonderful kind of contagious desire to get better. I do think, you know, us men, we compartmentalize stuff, keep it over here, but I do think we'd like to be healthy, and if we're given the opportunity.
Yeah.
So in recovery, well, let's just talk about starting. If somebody hasn't really pulled it together yet, what do you think is the most important thing for them to be thinking about or focusing on if they haven't yet decided, okay, I'm going to come clean, I'm going to go meet with some other guys?
Mm-hmm. There's that saying, you know, you're only as sick as your secrets.
Yep.
And to understand that the lies that we believe about ourselves, the lies that rattle around inside of our head, that I'm the only one that behaves this way. I know, and I'm thinking of names are popping into my head, guys who have had affairs, Christian men that have visited prostitutes. And so I think you know the big thing that traps us from and stops us from being vulnerable and talking about it is we think that we're the only ones, or we think that everybody in our life is going to leave us. No one is going to want to be around someone that's behaved this way. And I've found that to just not be true at all.
Yeah. Now, a guy that's in recovery, maybe watching, if you're recovering from alcoholism, you most likely don't have somebody walking into your office or coming to your cubicle or your home office or sitting on the couch on your computer. And as a recovering alcoholic, you don't have somebody coming in every 5 minutes saying, hey, would you like to have some vodka? But when it's sexual integrity, we're so saturated, and there's so many easy ways to fall back into pornography, lust, going outside of marriage. So what do you think is important for the guy that's been in recovery to prevent him from relapsing, prevent him from getting stagnant or getting triggered by something? Because we can't protect ourselves. I mean, we can put filters. I've got filters on my stuff, but we can't protect ourselves from everything. What's important to that guy?
I think that it is important. You talked about a plateau or stagnant, or getting bored with the program, and I think that it's something that we just need to talk about and address as a community. In your recovery journey and stuff, and your sponsor, because relapse and that is a very real thing for so many. And you're right. You can only do so much. And I was in the IT industry before I was in full-time ministry, and there's ways around the filters and all these different things. I'm really a fan of blocking sites and traffic so that you don't have access to pornography on all of your devices and so on. But you just drive down the road and you see a billboard ad or whatever it is. And in Galatians 5 it says it is for freedom that Christ has set us free. So as a believer, we really are already free. We just need to learn how to live that out and get to a place, and we can do this. We can get to a place to where we just don't desire to click on that stuff anymore.
Michael, you're an inspiration to me, to others. I thank you for being with me, and God bless you and Kristen. Keep up the great work. We'll take a break. We'll come right back. I want to talk to you about some grace-filled living right out of the Life Recovery Devotional. See you in a second.
Life recovery isn't just about making the courageous choice to give up an addiction or dependency. It's a journey towards health, wholeness, and becoming your very best you. If you need resources to help you in your journey, we can help. There are many life recovery resources that you can do on your own, with a group, or with your church. We have Bibles, workbooks, and devotionals that you can use to work your recovery right where you are. That's the beauty of life recovery. To learn more or to get the Life Recovery Bible or any other life recovery resource, visit liferecoverytoday.net or call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Welcome back to Life Recovery Today. Steve Arterburn here. Really glad you're with me. Life Recovery Devotional is so great on every step. It takes you through the whole year. And on page 220, it's all about the 8th step and grace-filled living. And here is a real key that I think is important when we need to make things right with somebody, and maybe they also need to make things right with us. Boy, that is tough. Maybe they're 70% and we're 30%. We got to make it right with our 30%. So what do we do? How do we do this thing? Well, Paul gave some great advice, and he says this over in Romans 12, starting in 17. Never pay back evil with more evil. Do things in such a way that everyone can see that you're honorable. Do all that you can to live in peace with everyone. Dear friends, never take revenge. Leave that to the righteous anger of God. Instead, if your enemies are hungry, feed them. If they're thirsty, give them something to drink. Don't let evil conquer you, but conquer evil by doing good. Man, that's just really great advice. And one of the best things that we can do that relates to this 8th step is to identify the people that it would really be helpful for me and for them to make it right. And let's make the list. Let's write it down. And then the other thing is, as we're making the list, things come up, and we think, wow, you know, that was horrible. What happened to me? That's where we've got to do to other people what we want done for us and what's been done for us. The grace that God has given me, I want to pass that on to other people. And when I pass on that grace, it just helps me to be more free when I set people free from any kind of expectation that they should or could do something for me. So I hope today that maybe you'd think about, is there somebody I need to make it right with? Maybe they need to make it right with me, but I'm going to be the adult in the room. And I'm going to do the responsible thing and make it right on my part. Now, we have all sorts of life recovery materials that we'd like to help you with. If you call 1-800-NEW-LIFE, you need help in starting a group, we've got people there. You just say, hey, I'd like to start a life recovery group. Or any of the materials, you know, the Life Recovery Bible, well, now it's way over 3 million copies. And there are so many great tools, including 5 different workbooks that you could work through. I hope you have a great day today, and I'll see you right back here next week on Life Recovery Today with Steve Arterburn. Have a great week.
Thanks for joining us for Life Recovery Today with Stephen Arterburn. We hope this program has helped you integrate God's truth and wisdom into your recovery journey. This program is brought to you by New Life Ministries, and it's your support that keeps this program on the air. When you contact us for any reason, be sure to let us know that you watch on NRB. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE or go to liferecoverytoday.net. Please join us again next week for more Life Recovery Today.